Hi, so in June of this year, a guy named Ween made a video about his criticisms against the LGBT community. I'm not joking. Then a guy named Communist Creeper made a commentary on his video, and now I'm here. Also, if anyone fucking asks me to tell newcomers what the LGBT is, I'm going to kill you.
I think you're fat.
Yeah, that's
It's just my opinion.
Because we are in a time of history where acceptance of this topic is more prevalent than ever, it's also the most volatile time to talk about it in any light that shines the slightest criticism on any aspect of the community due to cancel culture and the fact that most criticisms are labeled as homophobia.
I hate this argument so much, and you'll notice how no proof is going to be shown throughout this video, and I'm not gonna lie, since you're using anecdotal evidence, I'll use it too. I barely ever see this happen, and when it does happen, it's shunned. So therefore, my argument is just as valid as yours because it's anecdotal, and yours is anecdotal too.
Shut the fuck up. I can't stand people that just go, oh, so you did this, so therefore I can, in an argument. Just because Ween did the same doesn't mean you should do the same, Creeper. As not only is it dumb to use anecdotal evidence in general, there's really no excuse to do it, even intentionally. But you're basically going as low as Ween by using anecdotal evidence. It also makes you a hypocrite because you criticize Ween for using anecdotal evidence when yet you do it too here, Creeper.
Usually because it is rooted in hate or, in a lot of cases, religion, which admittedly, religion does create a lot of homophobia. This is not the case in my situation. I do not hate gays, trans people, lesbians, what have you. I'm not religious. I just see flaws that I feel need to be pointed out just because they are hurting the LGBTQ community more than anything, and they aren't seen as issues due to the fact that too many people are scared to talk about the topic in fear of cancel culture or appearing homophobic.
This man clearly has never actually been on gay Twitter because gay people are constantly infighting. And that's completely normal, just like how any group of people are going to disagree with each other. Doesn't matter if one thing they have is in common. They're going to fight.
Okay, so I get that social norms are social norms, you can't do anything about them, but you can still criticize them. Homophobia happens every day. Does that mean you should leave someone alone for being homophobic? No. Like, if Ween has an issue with a very big social norm in the LGBT part of Twitter, he can criticize that. Like, something being a social norm doesn't mean it should be used as an excuse.
I wanted to talk about this one first because I know that a lot of people will see the hypocrisy of the fact that I'm complaining about or pointing out toxicity, mainly just due to the fact that I'm in the commentary community, which is known for taking things way too far in the realm of toxicity. I want to say that the commentary community, at least the bit that I'm a part of, does not advertise itself as a proud, wholesome community that can be accessed by all ages.
So you're okay with toxicity if it's from your community, but if it's gay people, you have a problem.
I really want you to let him finish because his point is not strictly about toxicity in the LGBT community.
I want to say that the commentary community, at least the bit that I'm a part of, does not advertise itself as a proud, wholesome community that can be accessed by all ages. I make a point to regularly point out that my channel is not a place for children in hopes that any that might be watching will know that they're not welcome and will hopefully leave to go to a safer place of the internet. I know that the NSFW realm of the LGBTQ community is gate-kept for the most part behind warnings, but I'm not talking about that. I'm pointing out that it's almost expected to see members of the LGBTQ community interacting with minors on Twitter in argumentative ways, and I can't even count how many times I've seen somebody with a rainbow profile picture tell a kid to kill themselves because in their childish ignorance they made an over-the-top gay joke and didn't know when to back down, what they were talking about, and probably were just individuals that had yet to develop their own opinions or respect for other people.
His issues doesn't just stem from toxicity, but rather adults out there who identify with the LGBT arguing with kids and telling them to die, basically. And in all honesty, it's generalizing an entire community based on anecdotal evidence because not every adult in the LGBT argues with kids, so. But back to Creeper, this isn't the entire argument and it's more than just toxicity.
I make a point to regularly point out that my channel is not a place for children in hopes that any that might be watching will know that they're not welcome and will hopefully leave to go to a safer place of the internet. I know that the NSFW realm of the LGBTQ community is gate-kept for the most part behind warnings, but I'm not talking about that. I'm pointing out that it's almost expected to see members of the LGBTQ community interacting with minors on Twitter in argumentative ways, and I can't even count how many times I've seen somebody with a rainbow profile picture tell a kid to kill themselves.
My brother in Christ, you are literally describing the commentary community.
Please show me evidence because this is such a big claim on the commentary community with no evidence to back yourself up. And it's not like there isn't any evidence of the commentary community doing this. The whole Jelly Bean situation earlier this year is one example of the commentary community bullying a minor. But that doesn't justify how you don't show some evidence yourself, Creeper. Also, the fact that you played this clip after your last interjection is so funny because Ween now goes on to explain what his issue was. So your last introduction is wrong from the get-go.
Are you seriously eating banana chips and fucking drinking ketchup? Get the fuck out.
In their defense, age isn't something that's always publicly available or checked. The only reason I have an issue with this behavior is that people are strapping that rainbow or otherwise flag onto their profile, and when you see these interactions, you can't help but noticing those color patterns, and whether you like it or not, you start building up a mental correlation with rainbow flags and people that are pissed off and telling children to kill themselves. The same way you think about Mormons and relentless door-to-door solicitation. Just like people that fly the American flag and then spew the most egregious bullshit you've ever heard, you start making mental links between groups of people and negative interactions. I feel like if you're going to rep a flag of any kind, you have to have a bit of a filter and stay fairly passive on most topics, just because by using a certain pattern of color and shapes, you are now a spokesperson for a massive group of people, and that massive group of people might not always agree with what you have to say.
If you have a flag and you like flags, you can't have opinions on anything because some people in that group might disagree with you. Don't have opinions if you're gay, or if you're American, or if you're from former Yugoslavic countries.
This is exaggerating what we said, because it's not about not having an opinion on anything. But if you have a flag on your profile picture on places like Twitter or Instagram, you have to stay very passive on topics. Not that you can't have an opinion on anything. Which means, I'm sorry, but me all of a sudden having the Mexican flag as a profile picture doesn't mean that I'm a spokesman to the Hispanic community. Nobody is, and nobody will ever be a spokesman for an entire community or represent an entire community. That's impossible. Anyways, I'm gonna skip a few interjections until Ween goes on to his next section, because everything else Creeper says I already addressed or are right.
In several communities, mainly political groups and religions, many people will be invalidated for what they have to say if they aren't a part of said group when speaking on a related topic, and as somebody who is not a part of any of these groups, but also has no bias towards any of them, I've never been invalidated more for saying anything than people thinking I was straight when I didn't share an opinion with somebody. For a community built around the acceptance for a group of people, the amount of tolerance that they show for other groups seems to be non-existent, at least in the interactions that circulate the internet and the ones that I've had. I can understand not liking certain religions or political groups that directly oppose them. Why would you have tolerance for the people that don't have it for you? But at the same time, you're only proving that you're no better than them, and the only way to really be accepted by all of these groups is to tolerate them. If a group that you're in is spreading hate, you're more likely to get it. It seems really common for people in the LGBTQ community to hate on religion.
There's nothing wrong with being against sets of belief.
Bro, he was about to get into his explanation, like, let the man breathe.
I don't agree with religion, I have no bias here, but I also have no problem with religious people. It is a very easy way to set your baseline of morals and connect with a group of people. But as we know, it has a lot of public image issues similar to the ones I'm talking about with the LGBTQ community.
I feel that the issues with images from religion has to do with the fact that a lot of them just straight up openly push bad beliefs, which is the problem most gay people have with it. Now, personally, I don't believe you should hate on religion. That's my personal opinion, but if you do, I don't really care because you're allowed to hate beliefs.
Bro, this doesn't add anything to the argument. This is literally just adding your own 2 cents where it doesn't need to be there. Like, what?
And as a result, these two groups clash a lot. I can understand that the religious people don't like the LGBTQ community
I can't.
because it is preached to them that same-sex relationships are bad and so forth. And to an extent, I see the side of the LGBTQ community showing backlash or just defending themselves.
The LGBTQ plus community are the victims in this scenario. It is true that you kind of are a victim because you're taught to hate others, but it's still bad to hate others based off things they can't control in themselves.
And Ween understands why gay people don't like being told that same-sex relationships are bad by religious people.
If a group that you're in is spreading hate, you're more likely to get it. It seems really common for people in the LGBTQ community to hate on religion. I don't agree with religion, I have no bias here, but I also have no problem with religious people. It is a very easy way to set your baseline of morals and connect with a group of people. But as we know, it has a lot of public image issues similar to the ones I'm talking about with the LGBTQ community, and as a result, these two groups clash a lot. I can understand that the religious people don't like the LGBTQ community because it is preached to them that same-sex relationships are bad and so forth. And to an extent, I see the side of the LGBTQ community showing backlash or just defending themselves. But it is not a fundamental belief of the LGBTQ community to hate religion. At least not that I've seen that there is. There's an opportunity to step up and show tolerance for religion.
Ween knows this and even says that he understands what gay people are going through in the clip you just played. Because Ween's point is that we should still accept religious people and tolerate them even if they have very homophobic views. Which is stupid because it's blatantly ignoring the fact that they have very homophobic views and basically hate gay people. But literally, Ween says in the video that he doesn't get how people hate others that hate them, which is still like the most basement dweller shit I've ever heard.
Hating on people just because they hate you is something that I've never got.
But the point is Ween understands that and blatantly says that he understands that.
Dude, and then you will have sex! You will be having sex!
I've seen interactions between religious people and members of the LGBTQ community in which the religious person said that they did not support the LGBTQ community but had no issue with it due to the fact that it had no effect on their life. A fairly common stance that I've seen, but I shit you not, and I wish I was being hyperbolic. A rainbow profile picture came out of the woodworks and told this person that they were a bigot and had no reason to support a god that said same-sex relationships were wrong, and continued to rant about why people shouldn't be religious and why the whole concept was retarded.
Wow, that's really cool story. I wish we had screenshots. No? Like, if you're gonna talk, like, broad, like, that's fine, but if you're gonna talk about a specific instance, it'd probably be best to have screenshots.
Creeper, you don't say that Ween doesn't show screenshots when yet you haven't shown screenshots from the times you intentionally used anecdotal evidence.
I've gotten more arguments with somebody in the LGBTQ community than any other, and not because I made some edgy joke or I made some statement about their gender or sexual orientation. I was confused on why this certain group of people kept popping up to police my opinions. So I looked into it and I feel like I found out why after being a spectator of internet culture for a few years. Because of the recent widespread acceptance of the LGBTQ community on the internet, this is a good thing, by the way. If I didn't make it clear before, you should accept gay people. It became a trend to defend the community and anything that they did for the sake of acceptance.
Once again, you're using anecdotal evidence. I would say I have the exact opposite experience. So therefore, our arguments are both valid because you're only using anecdotal evidence, so it's only things that you have dealt with.
As a result, it became very easy to justify any opinion in the LGBTQ community, whether or not it was even related to the topics of gender or sexuality.
Okay, I've kind of seen this, but it's very minimal. And people who think that just because you're a minority, correct on these opinions, are never taken seriously. But once again, that's anecdotal.
And I'll touch on this more later. Back to the point, it became a viable option to win any argument you managed to get into by pinning the label of bigot or homophobe on the other person.
I see more people make this argument than make the argument that you're a bigot for disagreeing with gay people. I barely see the argument that if you disagree with gay people, you're a bigot, but I see the argument against it constantly.
And if you're the one to do it first, it commands a certain respect. The same respect that you're demanding while telling people that they're retarded for having faith in a higher power.
You see, most gay people don't have a problem with religion, it's mostly the bigotry within religious communities.
Yes, I am still motherfucking pissed about this. Like, what? The only reason why I skipped all the parts for Creeper showing anecdotal evidence is because I already addressed it, so I might as well just, like, address the fact that this happens throughout the entire video. So,
for the better part of 45 minutes, I've seen similar rants in reciprocated context with people ranting about why gays are bad, and those aren't good either.
Hating people for their beliefs is very different than hating people because they're a minority.
why are you bringing this up? When did we make this comparison? And explain what you mean by this. Like, the fact that I had to replay this part 10 times in order to understand how it might be relevant makes me goddamn sad. Like, what? Like, what the fuck, me? It's so obvious that you don't understand why Creeper is bringing this up anyways. But, I'm skipping the rest of this video because I'm done. I feel like I said what I already wanted to say, but, Creeper, there are many times where you use anecdotal evidence, which is hypocritical of you because you get onto Ween's case for doing the exact same thing. You also tend to misunderstand what Ween is saying, and some parts where you just say some shit that I don't get why they were added into the final project. Your interjections last so little time with a small amount of explanation in them. I'm not talking about the portions where you're basically mocking Ween, which are literal parts that I skip, but the parts where you make actual arguments last for a few seconds and are so bare bones and effortless. It feels like you made this whole video off the cuff after discovering Ween's video. So just give your interjections a little bit more explanation into them. Anyways, I'm done. Have a good day. Take care.